You know something? I was right. I knew that I would have a different experience checking out Captain Marvel again than I did the first time in the theater. All of the Marvel movies that have come out so far, you know, they kind of adjust after you see them more than one time. And I knew that after Endgame came out, we got another glimpse of Captain Marvel in action.
I like this one.
I would have, you know, kind of fresh eyes on this movie. And that's exactly what happened.
I enjoyed it.
I've seen it again. I've actually seen it a couple of times because I watched it on Blu-ray and I watched it on the plane down here to Los Angeles. We're at E3 and the big Avengers logo is behind me here because there's an Avengers game, and it felt like this is an appropriate place to talk about Captain Marvel. Now, the movie is still not perfect. I still have some, pretty major problems with this thing, but I did get a lot more enjoyment out of it the second and third time around, and it has to do with all of the little details that are all throughout this film. First of all, I love the Star Force, headed up by Jude Law's character, and Jamon Honshu is in there. I hope I've said his name correctly. And we've got all of these powered up individuals on this intergalactic kind of SWAT team that goes out on this mission and discovers that they've been sabotaged, and there's a Skrull attack that happens. And I thought that was incredibly compelling. I like those characters and I like the introduction. I like the suits that they're all wearing and the abilities that they all have. And the way that Veers, Captain Marvel, kind of fits in with this group is terrific. And I missed a lot of that the first time around. It was just like, what is happening? Where are we? We're on this different planet. Where we're fighting? Who are these guys? They're morphing into these green Skrull guys. Okay, there's a lot of stuff coming at you. So that second viewing is really revelatory. You can just sort of sit back and take in all of those details.
It's causing you doubt, and doubt makes you vulnerable.
You know, I also liked the interplay and the relationship that Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson built up in this movie a lot more the second time through. It felt a little bit forced and it felt a little bit like up front in your face, and they're throwing all of this 90s sensibility at you. I picked up a lot more of the subtleties. I picked up a lot more of the nuance the second time through, and the way that they kind of respect each other and look at each other, even if Captain Marvel does some pretty ridiculous things like blowing up jukeboxes and it's just causing damage where she shouldn't be. Maybe, you know, landing on another planet, you don't want to just be blasting away at all kinds of things. But I did appreciate the sense of camaraderie and the sense of humor that they have with their characters. I'm not crazy that this is also the Nick Fury origin story, because I feel like the character as crafted by Steranko comics from the 60s, they could have gone into a much cooler kind of espionage take, and he could have been much more of a badass than he ends up being in this movie, including the origin of him getting the eye patch. All of that stuff was kind of a letdown, even to see it again. But I did like the way that these characters respected each other, and I also like the way that Nick Fury and Coulson are kind of tipping their hat and nodding towards each other.
You want to get personal.
One of the standout pieces of this movie is Ben Mendelsohn, who is terrific as Talos. I think he's one of those supporting actors that just makes, he always delivers, and he makes every project that he's in a little bit better and a little bit more interesting. At first, the first time I watched this movie, I'm looking at the makeup and the stuff, and he's like acting like he's been on Earth forever, and he's drinking out of a sippy cup, and all of that. All of it just seemed a little bit too cute and too, I don't know, a little phony. But to see it again, you see the nuance and you see the fun and the frivolity.
Can you turn into a cat? What's a cat?
What about a filing cabinet?
Why would I turn into a filing cabinet?
Not crazy about the No Doubt song at the end of the flick, but I am ecstatic about the way that the action ramps up towards the end, and we see Brie Larson's Captain Marvel fully take control of her powers and her abilities and have a blast, and that woohoo as she's screaming as she's blasting through an enemy spaceship is just fun, and it sent chills down my spine because she's having such a great time. I wanted to see a bit more of that through the movie. I still feel like some of the flashback stuff that they've got in there is a little bit convoluted, and it kind of neuters the emotional impact of the character. But, you know, you can see intellectually and psychologically why they made these choices when they were crafting all of this. I really came away watching this the second time going, oh my God, I cannot wait to see the fully powered up version of Captain Marvel in a sequel. As for special features, you get a lot of featurettes talking about how beautiful the movie is and how awesome it is and how empowering it is. They talk a little bit about Goose the cat and how important he is. They talk about Nick Fury's origin story. All of that, it felt a little bit, a little safe, especially in the era post some of the Star Wars documentary stuff and behind-the-scenes stuff. We've seen better, more revealing work in some other Blu-rays and stuff. Everything felt like it was done on EPK stages and they had backdrops, and it was all just a little too broadcast friendly and perfect, and I wanted to see a little bit more sort of raw on the set kind of stuff. I also felt like Ryan Fleck and Anna Bowden, who came from the indie world to direct this movie, they did a competent job, but they didn't really blow me away with their passion for the material or blow me away with the I listened to some of the commentary as well. They didn't blow me away with the enthusiasm for this, like say somebody like James Gunn did with Guardians of the Galaxy. But still, the end takeaway is that there are tons of fantastic details in this. Brie Larson really assumes the role by the end of the film and just kills it. Nick Fury has some very fun bits in it, becomes much more enjoyable than it was the first time that I watched this. Overall, it was a damn good movie. Don't think it's my favorite of the Marvel movies, but I had a very good time, and it's a worthy part of my Marvel MCU movie collection. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.